It's recording, okay? Okay, guys, we're going to get started right away so we can get my daughter off of here because she's been waiting around a long time, as many of you probably have, trying to get on a live. We had very, very bad success in trying to get that done because for whatever reason, it wouldn't allow her to be added to the live. So I'm going to go right into it. This is my daughter, Olivia. She is currently 18 years old. She's a freshman at, where are you a freshman at?
Baby. University of Alabama at Birmingham.
University of Alabama by Birmingham. And that's the bottom line with her. She's doing extraordinarily well. And I wanted you guys to have a chance to see her and hear from her voice. Even though we couldn't get her on a live and you want to be able to ask her questions, I'm going to do my best to ask the questions that you might want to ask her. So my first question to you, my precious daughter, is how did you develop? I know you have a huge love of reading. Well, first of all, let me say this. She has a huge love of reading. Ever since she was in kindergarten, she learned how to read. And one of the things, and she really jumped into it when she got in the first grade, what happened was her brother was struggling in school to read and deal with his classes. And I went to school to find out what the deal was, and I found out that they thought he couldn't read, but I taught my son to read. Well, after we got that etched out, they realized that he could read and quite well. What I did was I said, look, what I want you to do with your sister, she's just getting started in school. I want you to read to your sister every night. I want you to go over her homework before I go over it. And he did that. That turbocharged her ability right off the bat. And so she developed a huge love of reading to the point where she was able to read very fast. She became very astute at reading. Tell us a little bit about how you developed a love for reading.
Okay, well, first of all, that was a major part, Nicholas reading to me and you telling him to do that. But the main thing would probably be during school, we would have a lot of reading competitions. We'd have a lot of books to read. We'd have reading time. And there was just a lot of interest in that with me because I was kind of a competitive person. And I also just liked the fact that it was something that I could enjoy in my leisure. I could pick books to read. I could, pick things that interest me. And over time, I just do that more and more. And so in middle school, I had, Hunger Games, Divergent, a lot of the young adult reading series and teen series. And by like high school, around 10th grade is where it kind of edged off since I had a lot more work to do.
Let's go. Let me stop you right there. Let me go back because I remember taking you to a bookstore. I don't know what you remember about how old you were then when I took you to the bookstore and you had Hunger Games and all these books in front of you.
Probably like 14.
14 years old. So I take this young lady to a bookstore and she's got these huge, thick Hunger Game books in front of her. I go to the gym. I come back, she's like a quarter of the way through a 300-page book. And she was reading them so rapidly. And I was wondering, can you understand reading that fast? And she said, yeah, sure. So one day I had her read to me a couple of pages out of a book. And the vocabulary was kind of upper level. She read it flawlessly. She didn't make one single solitary mistake. And I realized at that point that she was ahead of her time in being able to read. And what was it? I think the first personal development book I had you read and take notes from was The Compound Effect. And do you remember anything about that book as regards to how it affected you in being able to dig into personal development?
Well, first of all, it helped me because I understood only the basis of what personal development was. I really didn't understand the full concept, so it gave me more of a coherent outlook on it. And the main thing was that, it was compounding on everything that you do. So it helped me understand fully, like I was kind of already doing some of the things that it was saying, but
Like what?
I didn't have well, I guess in terms of study habits, of course, doing the best that I could do, obviously, but more of just not just floating by, kind of being more astute in learning, if it's reading or if it's any type of subject. And then by the time it was more, I guess, high schoolish, it was more, I used it more since it was needed more since things got harder. So that'll be the main thing I took from it. And of course, as a side note, it was important for me in college because I used that book in my interview for my honors college classes, and that was helpful in me getting into the honors college I wanted to get into.
And here's the remarkable part about your progression. You started, I think you went to private school, right?
For 3 years, yeah.
You Brubaker Tech. Then you went to a magnet school. Then you were doing all of this stuff. Every school that you've been to, it was always upper level schools. And the reading helped you, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to the point where you got to junior high school. Tell us a little bit about, you got an award in junior high school, I think, for like, what was that certificate that you received? Was it junior high school that you got that, or was that high school?
For what?
Position, I think it was like medical something or other. It was like you were going to be like a future physician kind of thing going on. What was that about?
I'm not sure. I think you're talking about high school, and there was I don't know. There's a lot of different things.
No. You received a certificate, and it was like a future. It was like future physician award or something. It was a big certificate, and anyway, it was a future medical physicians award or something. I guess you were doing so well.
Oh, I know what you're saying. Oh, that. Yeah, that was middle school. Yeah, I got that in the mail, and yeah, they invited me to go to the Northeast for conferences and that kind of stuff, but it was expensive. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so now, when did you start volunteering at hospitals by their request?
That was 10th grade. 10th grade, I started volunteering. For the most part, it was in my local hospital, but I met with my friend who was also going there before me, and we both did it together, and then I did it by myself the next 2 years.
So now you're actually walking around the hospital as a 10th grader?
Yeah, we had to buy scrubs and
what's that?
And we had name tags and scrubs, and we had our own ID badges to swipe to get different places.
So they're looking at you like you're a doctor.
I got stopped a lot and asked questions.
In the 10th grade?
Yeah.
People walking up to you like, hey, can you help me? I'm just a student.
Yeah, I'd have to tell them, hello, I'm just a volunteer.
Tell them that you were doing brain surgery. You probably would have tripped out. But so you're doing that. When did you take your first AP class, your advanced placement class?
Also 10th grade.
10th grade. So 10th grade thing sort of kicked off for you that you're in high school in the 10th grade, you're taking advanced placement classes, you're volunteering at hospitals. Let's go back a little bit, because the purpose for you volunteering at the hospital and purpose for you taking AP classes, you began to develop an early interest in wanting to be a physician. When did that start for you?
I would say had to have been elementary school. I can't pinpoint the exact time, but I know it was elementary school. I remember actually in 3rd grade, I dressed up as a doctor for Halloween for class. We had to dress up as the career we wanted to do, but it was Halloween related. And I think it was just, I like working with kids. Obviously at that time I was a kid myself, but younger kids than me, I like that. And the whole concept of just being in a hospital and walking around and just having that atmosphere was just really interesting to me. I thought it would be fun. And then as I got older, I learned more about it, and I thought it was interesting.
Okay. So now from the beginning, you realized that you needed to get employment that was going to pay a substantial amount of money for the lifestyle that you wanted to attain. You knew working at a very minimal job with basic money, minimum wage wasn't going to be the way to go for you. They had a little class for you to go to where they say, well, if you want this right over here, you want these things, you need to have this much money. And you figured out real quick how much money you needed to have, and being a physician was going to enable you to be what you want to be. But a lot of people might think that I or your mother led you in that direction, or forced you in that direction, or made you study hard so that you could be a doctor for us, or be a lawyer for us. Was that the case?
No, I mean, I always, like we were saying before, from young age was, more into academics than a lot of kids my age. And I wanted to do well because I just, it was something that I thought was important. And as I got older and understood what I wanted to do, it became more important. And, it was just something that it was necessary to do. Like even now, it's obviously necessary, but um, it's not something that was forced upon me. It was something that I wanted to do because it was something that I knew that to obtain my ultimate goal, of being an OBGYN, I have to do what is, necessary, and doing well in school is something that I should have to do regardless of that anyway. So I decided to
It's
go along.
amazing. It's amazing that you come out like that. I'm listening to you. Not like I don't know this information I'm asking you, but it's like for you, it's like a matter of fact. Of course, I would study hard. Of course, I would do what needs to be done. Of course, I wouldn't be distracted by other people. Of course, I would just, nobody forced me. This is what I do. This is who I be, basically, is what you're saying. How did you develop that mentality of not being distracted by what other people are doing or talking about the fact that they think that it would be too difficult for you to be a doctor, or you got to study hard, or you got to sacrifice too much, or whatever?
I think it felt rewarding after a while, or after a short amount of time, actually, and it wasn't at first, getting that first development of it, it wasn't hard to really achieve because elementary school is elementary school, but middle school was when it really hit home for me actually seeing that I was trying to do, good work and study hard, that kind of stuff. But it was just something that I thought was rewarding. Getting an F isn't something that really makes me feel good about myself. So I would think that getting an A would be something that I would want to strive for, even if it's not to obtain a goal, just in general, because that's something that makes you feel better.
But yeah, but not all your well, maybe all your peers did all your peers think that way?
Well, no, obviously all my friends did because that's the kind of friends I had, but also they didn't. But I think obviously goals are part of it. But I think that they had other endeavors that they wanted, like sports or, social type stuff, which I had both of those, so it really didn't matter anyway. But I think that in order to really understand the importance of study habits and working hard, you actually have to, obviously it's a mindset, but it's also your environment. And my environment was filled with just it being an obvious thing, like it's expected, and also it's something that you'd want to do since it's
And this is
helping you.
interesting because I've heard it stated, and many of the viewers that are probably watching this recorded Zoom, you're going to be the top of your five closest friends, or you're going to be like your five closest friends. It just so happens that many of your friends also went to college like you. Many of
Yeah,
your,
oh my gosh.
I mean, they aspired to greatness. So it's not by accident that you would be this way. I think it's
Yeah.
commendable that you're
Yeah.
this way. I mean,
My best friend actually was a valedictorian, well, almost valedictorian, but and all of my friends are top 20s, top 30s of the class. So I wasn't friends with, I don't want to say dummies, but
everybody that you were friends with were striving for greatness, like iron sharpens iron, from what I can see. Right. So you developed this tenacity, much like I was talking to Nicholas yesterday about this tenacity for wanting to do well in school. And the way you share it, it's like a matter of fact, like who wouldn't want to do well in school? Well,
yeah,
unfortunately, everybody doesn't think that way. All children, all teenagers don't operate that way. They say, well, you need to have some fun. You need to go to parties. You need to do this. You need to do that. So if I were to ask you, how do you maintain your stance and not be distracted? I already know the answer to that question. Your response is going to be, of course, you would maintain your response and not be distracted. Of course, you would do it this way.
yeah. I
It's,
think it's a misconception that doing well in school equals not having fun outside of school. I mean, that's a total misconception. You can do both. It's possible. It's not like it's impossible, like it's so hard to do because, like all of my friends, we all did well in school, but we also, we went out and had fun, parties, that kind of stuff. And we still got our work done at the end of the day because it was expected and it was what we should have done. And that's what we did do.
hmm. So tell me where, I mean, we've gone over some personal development. You read the 10X rule too, the book that talked about you want to do things 10 times better than you normally would think you need to do. Well, you obviously operated that way. I mean, when it comes time for you to have an assignment, say your assignment's due January 1st or January 2nd, okay? When at this point today, if your assignment, you have an assignment that's due January 2nd, or a report or whatever, when would you start it? When would you start doing it?
I'll start outlining it next week. And because it's actually ironic you say that because I have an assignment similar to that date. But I would outline what I want to do and actually start it probably a few days beforehand. If it depends on how big the assignment is. But if it's a really large assignment, farther back than that. But I would definitely do, the main thing is outlining what you want to do. I don't just jump into it because it gets all my brain rattled. It's too much information. But I have to space it out and understand what exactly I want to get done in the time I have.
It's fascinating. You and your brother fascinate me because you both do the same thing, but you operate slightly differently, and you have a different pace. And you have a relaxed kind of of course, it's easy. This is what I do. And Nicholas is a little more intense, but that's only because of the fact that he operates at an intensity level because he's a male. You operate at a different intensity level. Just as intense, but it's like a little bit it's really relaxed. So now you got involved with math. Math was your baby. And from what I remember, you didn't like math.
Still don't.
You hated math. I think you still don't like math. Yet you got honors in math. I mean, how does that work? How did that work?
It was, at first it was coincidence, but then, and algebra, but then pre-calculus was actually, more aptitude based. I think that it was me
when
just
did you start taking pre-calculus?
11th grade.
11th grade. So you hadn't graduated, but you hadn't even graduated high school yet, and you're taking pre-calculus that you hated, but still passed anyway.
Yeah, along with calculus, but I think that it was mainly having to just realize that it's unnecessary evil because it is evil. Math is evil, and and I just had to realize. Plus, I didn't do it by myself. My two of my closest friends are like math geniuses, and they helped me a lot to understand what I didn't comprehend. So it's part of it wasn't just me trying. Part of it was me actually using my own aptitude and understanding to figure things out, but a huge portion of it was, actually understanding that when you need help, get help,
So, I don't have you on a live right now, so I don't have any questions before me that people would be asking me, obviously, at this point. What would you say, where were you before you got to this level? Let's go back, let's ask these three basic questions. Where were you? I'll start with that one. Where were you before you ever got to this level of greatness, I'd say?
I'd say I was doing better than the average would, but I didn't know why. I was just kind of doing it because it was expected and because, I wanted to do it, but it wasn't something that I actually understood fully the end goal, the end game of what I was doing. It was just, going to school, that kind of thing.
Okay, so now where are you now in comparison?
Now I'm, fully understanding my goal, OBGYN or pediatrician, actually. I don't know which one. And, I know exactly what I want. I know how to get it, studying habits and social life, everything's, I feel in myself is balanced. And I'm doing pretty well. I have A's and B's right now. So and finals are coming up. So
so you're in like the finals week right now, right?
Yeah, well, I had my first one yesterday, but my main ones are next week. Next week is actual finals week.
Okay. So now we talked about where you were. We talked about where you are. So at this point forward, where are you going?
Fast forwarding, like full speed ahead to med school, hopefully in 3 years, not 4, because I'm taking summer classes as well. So those should cut off a lot of time because I want to just get to there as fast as possible so I can get to my actual goal, of being a physician. And I think that the end game is, of course, the physician job, but also having had all that schooling and everything, finally being done with school. So, you know.
I understand that. I understand that. You know, it's average. You know what? It's like I told Nick yesterday. I'm glad you're my daughter. I tell you, I was glad he was my son. I'm glad you're my daughter because I mean, you're amazing. I love you, and I think that you're doing a marvelous job. You have a lot of power in your demeanor, even though your demeanor is calm. It's such a directness to what you believe you can accomplish. Such a directness and awareness that you have about yourself. You're introspective. You obviously have done a lot of thinking about what you need to do. You obviously have done a lot of self-reflection, and you obviously have assessed what you need to do so that you can move forward, so that you're not wasting time, which is good. You have good study habits, right? How often do you study a week, and when do you study?
That's complicated. It depends. I would say a couple times for each class that I go to. I have about 4 or 5 classes, so a couple times about 45 minutes for each session for that class.
Okay, so here we are. We've talked about where you were, where you are, where you're going. If somebody that's in junior high school right now, the parent has them watching this right now, and that child or those children are in junior high school right now or in elementary school right now, and they're eventually going to get to high school and they're eventually going to get to college, but college is so far in advance. Somebody that's in elementary school can't even fathom that. So if you were going to be talking to them to try to guide them, to try to give them some advice, guidance, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, the first thing is obviously cliche, but it still makes sense is do your best, you know. Slacking off isn't something that I would suggest, obviously, but you can't be serious all the time or else it just puts too much stress on you, and being stressed out throughout school isn't the best experience, you know, and I've had dealt with that throughout some parts of my life that I could have been less stressed, but you can still do well in school without, you know, putting too much pressure on yourself. And, you know, in elementary school, you know, it's a lot more laid back. So, I mean, you know, have your fun and all that kind of stuff, but also realize that, you know, everything that you do has an effect in the future. And for middle school, it's important. High school is slightly more important though, but for middle schoolers, you know, realize that, you know, it's hard now, but you'll think it's less hard in the future. So I think that, you know, if you don't have to like study all the time, but just, you know, look over things, you know, glance at them at least, you know, try to at least do somewhat better than the person next to you, if that helps you, you know. And then just realize, you know, just figure out what exactly, you're not exactly what you want to do in life, but, you know, maybe something that you're interested in so that you can work towards that. And then eventually get in your groove and understand what you actually want to do and how to get there.
Very good, very good. What would you to adults of children, what would you tell them is the best course of action for them to inspire or encourage their children?
Well, I expect good grades, but not perfect grades. And, you know, go ahead and just, I guess, look at how they already do in school, you know, and kind of base I guess, your reactions to report cards, that kind of thing, on how they already do, so that you're not expecting them to get straight A's, and if they make a B, you're just totally like against that. And it's going to like, that hurts more than it's helping. But at the same time, don't just, you know, if they get in straight C's, but they could probably get at least B's, don't just say, okay, well, you know, you did your best, you know, that probably isn't their best, you know. So gauge it based upon the person. Don't put the same, you know, category for each child, or if you have one child, you know, for everybody, because not everybody works and operates the same way, you know. And I guess to inspire them, you know, you can, you know, I mean, so like, I kind of find out what they're interested in, you know, that's one thing that's helpful. You know, if you can help them figure out what they're interested in, they can maybe help them understand what they want their goals to be, you know, and you can work out your own goals too, so you both have goals.
So how important, what's the ramifications of a parent setting the example for their children in one capacity? Like, you know, your mom has a master's degree, for example, okay? And she's into academics and doing her thing, and I have a bachelor's. Your grandfather has a PhD. Your grandmother has a master's degree. Um, how important is it for the parents to have some kind of example that they're setting?
Well, it's probably one of the most important things, you know. Examples are, you know, we're all molded by our environment and, you know, our parents, everything that they see that we see, you know, that they're doing, we see it and we try to do the same thing. So even if they don't have the best education, you can at least set the example of what you want your kids to do, you know, and if you do have education, then obviously you want your kids to do the same thing. You want them to always do better than you have. So
I'm glad you raised that point because not all parents are going to have upper level education, but they still can set the example of uh, goal setting. They can still set the example of determining what it is that they want to do and do it to the best that they can do so their kids can look at them and say, you know what? They don't have a bachelor's degree. They don't have a master's degree. They don't have a PhD, but they're doing the best of what they have to set the
yeah,
example for me.
actually, I think that's actually a good point because if I think about it that way, you know, one thing that is as a deterrent in terms of, you know, studying or, you know, schooling and jobs is if your parent, like you, obviously not everybody loves their job all the time, but if you complain a lot about your job, it sends a wrong message because I know that, you know, I've been in certain scenarios and atmospheres, not with my parents, but other people, and their constant complaining about their job makes you think like, oh my God, this is what the job market, that's what, you know, adulting is. This is how life is in the future. It, you know, makes more of a negative impact on, you know, the mindset of what, you know, jobs are in the future and how life is in the future. So positivity is always helpful, basically.
Definitely. So, what is it? What is it? What are three things that you can tell the audience that you've learned from me that's been beneficial to you?
I'd say, of course, personal development would be one. That's a huge one since, you know, it helps to keep someone like me motivated because I can be lazy at times. Um, I think the second one probably would be mm, to, well, I guess positivity. That's always another one because staying positive is what helps you do everything else in your life when you know, are under stress or duress or, you know, anxious. Like just before this video, I was just anxious about it, but you know, help me stay positive to actually understand that, you know, it's not like it's a huge deal, you know. And the last thing would be, this is hard. Um,
Because you have a creative side too. You draw and you play music, and I think I've given you guys some creativity uh, examples,
there you go.
and I think that's probably could be the third thing that you probably could say that I influenced you on. Um, I think social media is very important if it's used correctly. Yeah, as you notice, I always give you guys accolades on social media. I always point out what you've done great as opposed to pointing out what you didn't do so well. And I give you recognition, you know, as much as I can so that people know that, hey, you know, you guys are doing some things. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. You've been a very, very good interviewee, if you will. You shared information that was from the heart, and you shared information in a very, very concise manner. You speak well, you think well, and I want you to continue to do what it is that you're doing. You're on the right track. I expect great things from you, only because you are great. So just say goodbye to everybody,
Okay, bye.
and
All right.
thank you for your time, and you keep crushing it.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye, Daddy.
Bye. Now we're recording. All right. Well, folks, for those of you that are yet to meet my beautiful young daughter, she's the youngest of two daughters that I have. Her name is Olivia Nicole Saunders. Funny story behind the name Olivia. I believe the reason why you were named that is because there was a soap opera that was popular during the time right before you were born. It had Nick and Olivia on the soap opera, and somehow, that name was picked. I went along with the name because I liked the way the name sounded, but I believe that's what the origination of the name came from. Your name came from, believe it or not. Your name came out of, I don't know if you ever knew that story or not, but that's where you guys' name came from. What's that?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Okay. I said, okay.
Right, well,
No, I said,
right.
I don't remember the story.
I'm just telling you.
Just one, because I had never heard the origin. I know because I never heard the origin of my name. That's why I didn't know.
Obviously, the name Olivia has a different connotation to it, but the way it was picked, I believe that's why it was picked. That's why Nicholas and Olivia, the name was picked, because I didn't pick those names. I accepted those names because I liked the way the name sounded. But to my knowledge, that's how your name was picked. Little known fact. Girl, little known fact. Anyway, she's my daughter. She's now 21 years old. Oh my God. It just seemed like yesterday when I had you on my lap. And I was having a conversation with my brother. He and I are the only surviving descendants of my mother and father, main descendants. Now, of course, he has a daughter who has a daughter, which is my grand niece. But at the same time, my sister is gone, my mother is gone, my father is gone. So it's just me and my brother as a sibling. That's all that's left. Of course, I have first cousins, and I have, I don't have any uncles left. They're gone. I don't have any grandparents left. They're gone. I never met my grandmothers on either side of the family. But my youngest kids have never met, you never met my mom and dad either, right? They were gone before you were born. So, on your side, you met, your mom's grandparents, or parents rather, but you never met my parents. So there's an absence of history that you've not received from them. No doubt they would have loved y'all. Y'all are phenomenal kids. You turned out marvelous, and I have a lot of respect for what you guys have done in your young lives so far. So I realize that I'm getting older, and I don't often have an opportunity to speak with you as much as I would like, because you guys have schedules, you have lives, and you're not sitting around just waiting for me to call you. I mean, obviously. So I said, well, let me go ahead and call up my little girl, see how she's doing. I know we got the coronavirus going on with the being out of school. We know, everybody by now should know, that you being my youngest daughter doesn't take away from the fact that you want to be a doctor. I'm still amazed by that. I'm amazed. It was about third grade you made that decision?
So around about, I actually don't remember at this point, but yeah, around about.
Around third grade, you made a decision. Now that you're 21, you made a decision to become a doctor. And you have stuck with that. God bless you. You stuck with that the whole time. You might have changed from pediatrics to obstetrics, but the bottom line is you were going to be a doctor no matter what. You went from having a dismal math grade. Dismal. Look it up, y'all. Y'all know what the word dismal is? Look it up. You'll see a picture of my little girl in there next to math. Dismal math grade. She hated math. And then she ends up taking pre-calculus in 11th grade. Calculus? What? Now I don't know what she's probably studying nuclear arms now. I don't know what she's studying. I don't know what she's studying now, but it's remarkable. Can you tell us what helped
formulate your philosophy of life?
It's a loaded question. I guess mainly like anybody role models. I mean, you get experience through, what tell you and what you've been through or something like that. And then I don't know, I guess my philosophy, I don't know. I mean, a lot of times I just go with the flow. I mean, I have an idea and I just go along with it. And then like with when I became a doctor, it's something that I, was an idea. And then I decided to pursue it because it's just what I was interested in. So in terms of having a philosophy.
What about your peers? You have peers that obviously are not interested in medicine. You have peers that don't push themselves like you push yourself. You push yourself to the utmost.
I'm not 100% sure. I think I don't know, upbringing, people have different upbringings and the way that they're raised, and it kind of influences how they act and what they do. So I don't know, I guess based on that, that's why I decided to continue on the path that I was, because of just the way that I was raised to, education is important. So it was important to me because that's just how I was raised. And I just, I don't know, it was something that I thought that I needed to continue to do. And I was more like a why not kind of thing. I mean, there'd be no purpose in just kind of slacking off. I mean, it wouldn't help me out because I wanted to be able to be at least somewhat successful when I got older. So, I mean, might as well put in the work early on just to, be able to relax later on kind of thing.
That's kind of remarkable because I had a conversation with your brother. He expanded or expounded on why he is the way that he is. And you're expounding on why you are the way you are. And what I come away with by talking to both of you, you both have such a sense of self-assuredness about yourself. Like, of course I'm going to do this. Why wouldn't I do this? And everybody that I ever meet people that I meet from time to time, they have self-doubt. Seemingly, you don't seem to have a great deal of self-doubt. Why not?
I don't know. I feel like I do have self-doubt. It's just that I don't necessarily let it overtake me when it comes to what I'm doing all the time. I mean, I feel like everybody has self-doubt, or, you're not completely assured of what you're doing, or you think that things aren't going to work out. And I mean, I have the same feelings. I guess I just, I don't dwell as long on it. I guess maybe some other people might dwell on it for whatever reason.
So you don't know why you don't dwell on it? You just don't dwell on it?
I just don't. I mean, just because the more I dwell on, the more that makes me feel even worse. So I prefer to more think about other things or do something else. Because if I just dwell on it, then it's not. I don't know. It's not a health situation. So it just makes me feel worse. So that's why I just would prefer not, if when I can, not to dwell on it at least.
Okay, so now you're heading toward being a senior at a major university, right?
Right.
When you graduate, was it next year, December? Correct?
No, it's gonna be May of 2021. So
May of 2021, you'll graduate with a 4-year degree. What will you have a 4-year degree in?
My major is biomedical sciences. My minor is in chemistry and Spanish.
So you're good with languages. And you have the nerve. You got the nerve to take a minor in chemistry? Oh, Lord. And you got a major in biological sciences. Is that correct?
Biomedical sciences, yeah.
Biomedical science. That means that you're just too damn smart for your own good. That's what that means.
I guess so.
Okay. How was it for you to go from what you were studying in high school to being introduced to more higher level learning, more higher level chemistry? Because you took chemistry in high school, but you didn't take it like you take it now. But you took chemistry in high school, and how was it going into biomedical science? What changes in your mindset did you have to undergo to do that? You think?
Well, I mean, I think it's just that, for anybody going into college, it's an adjustment. The way, especially if for a lot of kids that are like honors college kids, you're used to doing really well in high school, but then once you get to college, things might change. You might get B's or C's, and then it throws you off course a little bit. So something to, get used to making lower grades necessarily, like if you're not used to that, and then you just adjust your studying so that you can go back to what you're, I guess, used to. So like for me, when I came to chemistry, that kind of just blended in with high school because I just so happen to have come from a good high school where other people might not have the same opportunities or the same, so that's why it may have been harder. But with those, just like with me, I didn't have a good relationship with physics, so I had to make a great adjustment because I never really had physics in high school. So I think it's based on your experiences, and you need to adjust based on how you adjust. So like when it comes to studying, I just studied longer because I studied in high school only for like short period of time because I didn't need to study that much. But in college, I had to just readjust how I went about learning so that I could get better grades and that kind of thing, I guess.
So you prioritize getting good grades in your classes. You also study, unlike some people who don't study at all. I guess they just walk in class and try to wing it.
Yeah, well, some people don't need as much studying, but yeah.
Some people don't need as much studying?
Yeah, like I said, in high school, I didn't really need that much studying in order to do well in some classes, whereas other classes or other people maybe need more studying to be able to grasp certain concepts.
Okay. So, all right. So, what do you do to have fun when you're not studying for hours and hours and hours? What do you do to have fun?
I mean, that kind of thing. We go out. I listen to music. I play piano. Just leisurely kind of things, or just hang with friends, watch TV. That kind of thing. I think most people my age probably do.
Okay. Did you think that your situation, your lifestyle, would be the way it is right now, years ago? Did you foresee this?
I guess, no, not really. I guess not. I think I had more of an idealized idea of college than what it really is because it was a bit more difficult, certain subjects, and then the social aspect is kind of hard to get used to in terms of meeting new people, but not having them in class every day. Whereas high school, you see people every day, so it's easier to make friends and talk to people. But I mean, it's not bad. I guess it's just different from what I expected. It's just certain things aren't. I mean, it's kind of hard to really know how college is going to go unless you're in it. You just see it on TV or you hear people talk about it, but it's different when you actually experience it yourself. But
so when you went,
yeah.
so when you started college your first year, how do you think you changed your manner of doing things to your second year?
Well, I learned and I got more open because I was a little more quiet freshman year because it was my first year. I mean, I didn't know where anything was or what to do or how things would go. Everything was kind of like, of course, fresh and new, and it's your first year. And then second year, get more acclimated to the people, the campus, the teachers, and you kind of just find your way a little easier. And by joining year, you kind of pretty much have everything together. But I guess just getting acclimated, just easier. So that's the main thing I did is get more acclimated, and then I could know how to tackle a class instead of being kind of just confused of what's going on. You can just get into a groove of things a lot faster.
I can tell that you are definitely you're definitely a niece of your aunt. The aunt I'm speaking about is an aunt that you never met. I don't think you met April. Your aunt, yeah, you did meet Aunt April.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I met her.
You know how fast she speaks, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always talked fast. Yeah.
You make her look like she's standing still. You make her look like she's just practicing. She used to speak exceedingly fast, but you speak so fast. My God.
Yeah, I've been trying to speak slower and be able to enunciate and make things a little bit more clear and precise. But when I'm talking about something that I know what I'm talking about, I just want to say everything at the same time. That's why I talk so fast.
You know, it's funny because when I was growing up and I was a little bit younger than you, I stuttered and I couldn't get full sentences out. My father's first cousin, he stuttered very badly. And I thought to myself, my God, his name is James. My name is James. Am I going to talk like that? I was petrified of becoming a stutterer. So I read incessantly. And it's funny. It's funny. You speak just as fast as I spoke as a child. They tell me I speak fast now, but you make me look like I'm practicing clearly. Secondly, as much as I love to read, your reading ability, again, makes me look like I'm just practicing. You read books like that are that thick in a day? What? Wait, what? And you can actually articulate and remember what you read? I'm like, that's amazing to me. It just shows the vast improvements that we as human beings can make if we don't have any other beliefs, but that's the way it is. You believe, why shouldn't I be able to do it? You remember back in the time that you, when I was married to Amber, she had a niece that was helping you with your math, and then she didn't help you anymore, but you went your own way and she went her own way. And you just took off. You just took off. I mean, you just like, one minute you were like, I'm going to just do this, And next minute you were like, where did she go? She's like a monster. She's like on steroids. I mean, you just, it's amazing the depth of what you speak about. And when you do you're going to go into pre-med next year. Lord help them. They got to be ready for you. Lord help them. When you become a doctor, I'll probably be using you as a doctor. Say, hey, Mr. Saunders, you're going to see that? No. So is that my daughter that you're going to get? No. I don't see nobody but my daughter. She know what she's doing. I was there when she was 21 years old, and she's talking this stuff. I had to pull up. I'm looking for my dictionary. Where's my dictionary at? Where's my thesaurus at? I got to bone up on some. You're the only person I ever speak to. Then when I finish speaking to you, I got to check myself. I said, man, how old am I? How long have I been on the planet? Do I know anything? I got to learn some things. It's just remarkable to me as to how you've grown as a young woman and the volume of knowledge that you have. I was really impressed. It was several years ago. I never told you this. It was sometime after I had you guys read The Compound Effect and take notes and all that stuff, and you articulated how this was going to affect your life, all that good stuff. But I had you read a page out of a book, and this was a page that had like $15 words in it. The numerical price of the words were no less than $15. And you read the whole page. I've never seen anyone read a whole page of material out loud flawlessly. Didn't make one single solitary mistake. I couldn't even do that, and I can read very well. I can write very well. And then I saw how you wrote, and I saw how your brother wrote. I said, you guys write well too? What are you guys, but if I would have just met you, I would have swore that y'all were androids. I wouldn't have thought that you were a kid, If I didn't know that I had a hand, and you guys being here, along with your mom, I never would have thought that you would have been able to come across the way that you do. I just want to tell you that because, parents don't tell their children enough how much they appreciate them, how much they value their knowledge, their wisdom. I love you. I care about you. and I want nothing but great things for you. You know. So what's coming up in your life over the next year or two? What would you like to see happen?
Hopefully I'll take a gap year and then apply to medical school and then get in and then start my first year.
Okay. So your first year, wouldn't your first year be like an internship or something?
No, it's not till the last year. The first year is more like kind of like schooling. First 2 years is like schooling. Second 2 years, it's more the clinical, like getting into the hands-on kind of thing. But first 2 years is like a classroom type stuff.
Now you've been in with doctors that have performed operations, held a gallbladder in your hand, and you're the only one I've ever seen. Yeah, I held a gallbladder in my hand. It was kind of icky, but it was kind of cool at the same time. Who says that?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting.
Who says that? It was icky, but it was kind of cool too. I'm like, oh, she's definitely gonna be a doctor. She's the only one that described it that way. And people were mistaking you as a doctor, and you were a volunteer. I was telling you, you need to tell them that you just came out of brain surgery. That probably would shock them. But yeah, it was funny. But how many times did you volunteer at hospitals?
Well, I volunteered for 3 years in high school. I volunteered for a few months while I've been here in college. So about a few hundred hours.
What did you do for those few hundred hours for the most part?
Well, in high school, it was mainly you go to different departments. It was I would stay there from about 8 to 3, and you go to whatever department might need help. I went to wound care, maybe did paperwork over there. But going to pediatrics, I'd play with the kids in the playroom after they had their food and everything, and then or if I went to the OR, I'd sit there and watch the surgeons perform a surgery, whatever the surgery was that day, ask questions, and any place I went to, I asked questions. And then, I mean, it depends on where I was. Some places you just kind of stand there and just observe. Other places you can get more hands-on, like with the pediatrics and playing with the kids. So that's mainly. And then in college, when I was at an OBGYN's, like their office area, I basically did like more shadowing and more observations and that kind of thing. It's a lot of observing.
All right, a lot of more observing than hands-on, I would imagine.
Right, because they can't let just anybody just touch on the patients. It's illegal.
Yeah, y'all be taking all the blood. Y'all be taking all the blood of the person. So.
Yeah. So there's a lot of observations, but you can do some stuff sometimes.
Okay, so the phlebotomist is the one that draws blood. Is that correct?
Right.
So you haven't done any of that.
I don't on dummies, but not on people. No.
Okay, well that's good. Thank you for that. Thank you for telling me that. Man, I know you're gonna be good, but you ain't a doctor yet. Damn.
Right. Yeah, they're not gonna let people do that kind of thing.
I'm playing. So, do you have any more volunteerism in your future for this coming year?
Hopefully, coronavirus makes things a little bit more complicated, but I was hoping to be able to get into a hospital, maybe baby hospital. If not, then I'm gonna continue to work at VOA, which is like I'm basically an at-home care provider, that kind of thing. Do that as a job. I've been doing that so far as a job the past month or so. And maybe continue doing that in the school year to make extra money and also get experience in like something that's kind of clinical-ish,
I understand. VOA, yeah, I remember that. That's home care provider kind of stuff. What did you learn? How has that experience enriched your life in your school as far as being a home care provider, if you will?
Well, I mean, it's similar to the healthcare field. I mean, it's, the people that we serve are similar to like patients, but these people have intellectual disabilities. So, I give baths, I fix food, and make sure that they have everything they need, do activities, that kind of thing. So it's similar to if I was in hospital and you have to make sure the patient has everything that they need, vital signs, that kind of thing. So it kind of just gave me something that's like similar to a hospital setting, so that I get something that's experienced in the same field I want to go into, so that I can have that going into the future. So it's just kind of like something that's similar, that I can get that experience and you get to know the patient just like you get to know the people we serve. you know their needs, you can really understand them and that be able to give them better care based on that.
Okay. Okay. So obviously you wanted to be a doctor. The interaction with people, which is critical and is vital, as a matter of fact, because there's no AI. You got to be with people. It's enriched your ability to communicate with people, because you obviously can communicate very well. Do people have a problem understanding what you say to them?
Yeah, I used to talk really quietly. I talk louder now, but like I said before, when I'm talking to somebody that I know that I need to articulate everything I'm saying, like if it's like a project, or if I'm in front of a crowd or in front of a teacher, I'll slow things down. But right now I'm just talking because I'm just talking. But usually I would slow myself down and talk slower to be able to articulate better and make sure that what I'm saying is clear and concise so that I don't have any confusion.
So now you're also into Spanish too. How far have you gotten in Spanish, in your opinion, on the scale of 1 to 10?
Well, I mean, it's back on, you lose it. I would say, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say something like I'm a 2. It kind of depends. If you, like they say, you don't use it, you lose it. I mean, I have a Spanish class coming up this semester, so it probably will reinstate a lot of things I've kind of forgotten over the summer. But it goes back and forth. It kind of depends on when I'm studying it. But I mean, I'm not fluent or anything like that, but I can get around that kind of, I have that kind of, I guess, fluency. I know enough to be able to, get by and get around.
So if you were put into a Spanish-speaking country, you would be able to you'd make yourself understood.
Right, like I did before, yeah.
Okay, because I know you went to Spain you had a journey while you were in school. Since you've been in the university, that you actually went to Spain, got lost. Oh man, I'm thinking like, oh my God, who would be able to deal with that?
Yeah, but I found my way around though. Yeah, that was last year. Yeah, I studied abroad for 1 month in Valencia.
So that was a nice experience for you to go to Spain for the first time.
Right.
So how do you feel about going into school this coming year? How do you feel about your grades going in now?
I want to get them higher. I mean, I think everybody else wants to get higher, better grades, but my plan is to do that the way I can boost up my GPA to have a better resume, So this last year definitely is the year I have to buckle down the most. It's one of the most important years because I have to make sure I can have the best grades I possibly can, hopefully, and get the best GPA possible. And then I have to start studying for the MCAT and get a good score on that. I have to volunteer. I have to do research. I'm in a research lab right now. I want to continue my job at VOA. So it's a lot of stuff to do this year. But it's every college school year has something that I have to do. So there's some things that are obligations. So this year is no different from that.
Okay. So you I remember you took way back in high school, you took your ACT. You took it the first time, got a pretty good score on it, and then had nerve enough to want to take it you took it another time and raised it up higher. They ended up raising your amount of money that they were going to give you, your scholarship money. They raised it up because you took it a second time and raised it up. That must have been gratifying for you.
Definitely. I mean, it's the ACT is kind of like to high school what MCAT is to medical school. You want to do as best as you can so that you can get, the best, chance to get in college or in this scholar. Of course, I was definitely happy about that I got a much higher score than I did the first time.
Okay. Do you know what your GPA is now?
I'm not really sure, actually. I know a year ago it was 3.5, but what is it right now? I haven't checked it since my last semester, so I don't really know. Or at least I don't remember.
Okay. There were the family reunion. They had a family reunion this past weekend. What's today? Today's Monday. Yeah, they had a family reunion this past weekend, and they did it by Zoom. It was interesting. My first cousin put on the Zoom, and we had a lot of people on the Zoom. They
Right.
did release of the balloons by Zoom, and different people talking and sharing testimonies and stories. They showed a couple of videos. Actually, the video of the Zoom itself was made available to me. He recorded it, like I'm recording this. He recorded it, so I'll be able to get a copy of it. When I get a copy of it, I'll make it available for you and your brother to have as well.
Okay.
So how's everybody doing? How's your stepfather doing? How's your mom doing? How's your brother doing? Your other brother, your younger brother, how's he doing?
They're all doing good. They're all doing good. Kind of the same as usual. Nothing really out of the ordinary so far with them.
Everybody's staying safe, I would imagine.
Yeah, we are.
Good. 'Cause I know you're back in Montgomery now. You know, you're no longer in Auburn, so that you had to make that change to come back to Montgomery again. I spent 10 years in Montgomery. Is that where you're at right now, Montgomery? Or are you in Birmingham? Where are you at?
Mm-hmm. No, I
Yeah.
don't go back to Birmingham until next week.
Okay. So I know at this point, Montgomery should have been built up a little bit when I was there back in the day.
I'm sure it is. Compared to what it was before, but I'm assuming it. I'm assuming it is. But I know it's hard to compare because I don't remember what it was before. So it's kind of all I know is now.
I understand. Well, you know that October 7th, can't forget that. I'll be in trouble if I do that. October 7th, your dad, he sort of disappeared on me. I know you're still there. I can't see your image anymore. You must have clicked stop video or something. But are you still there? Olivia. Hey, little girl, are you still there? And my daughter's then disappeared on me. I see her name, and I see a black little image that she left the screen or whatever. Maybe, yeah, she's gone. All right. Well, I just wanted to have an opportunity to share with you the interaction between my daughter and myself. Both brother and sister, I both had them together read a book called The Compound Effect. And you can hear how rapidly my daughter speaks, but at the same time, I'm sure you can hear the content of what she says and the high level language of the speaking that she does. Very impressive to me. I'm really proud as to what she's done with herself. Very, very proud. So if you got anything out of this, pass it on to somebody else. There are ladies, there are young ladies and young women, and old ladies and old women that don't have confidence in themselves. When you watch the video, I want you to think about the confidence that she had to have to be on with her dad in a live venue, not knowing what I was going to ask, not knowing what I was going to say, because we didn't go over any of it. But I wanted you to see that me as a parent, it's important to have a relationship with my kids. I talked to my son yesterday. I talked to my daughter today. I had one for her from years ago, when she was a freshman. But she's getting ready to be a senior now, and so things are different, vastly different. Her confidence level is at a very, very high level. She knows what she wants to do. She knows where she wants to go. She's extremely confident. She's extremely noteworthy of how she views life. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this, this Zoom. I've recorded it. I'm going to make sure everybody has a copy of it that wants it. And, you know, she's currently in Montgomery, Alabama. I'm here in Henderson, Nevada. But I was able to talk with her, and she had nothing to do. I called her up on the phone. She said, hey, little girl, can you get on the phone? Can you get on the Zoom with me right quick? She said, yes, I can. She said, yes, I can. And I'm so glad that she did. Right now, I'm looking to see what the meeting settings are. Yeah, she can get in if she wants to. I think she left me. And I guess it was valuable enough for me to be on with her. So, hope you all enjoyed that. We'll talk to you later.